Two friends just made a podcast. Two good friends just made a podcast. Two friends just made a podcast. It's called Culture Bucket. Two friends just made a podcast. Two good friends just made a podcast. Two friends just made a podcast. Culture Bucket, Georgia and Alex.
Hi and welcome to episode 22 of Culture Bucket. It's nice to have you today. So, it's a big week here at Culture Bucket. We're going to be talking about our top 5 90s bands, as we told you last week. And we've got plenty of other things to discuss as well, like our usual homework and culture catch-up. I am George, and with me is your other host, Alex. Hi, Alex.
Hi, George. Hi, everyone. How
are you today, Alex?
Oh
no.
Oh,
Right, stop, delete, start again. Okay, episode 21 of Culture Bucket. Welcome.
22.
Bands and homework 22. How are you today?
I'm fine. I'm great.
Cool.
Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm pretty good. So, culture catch-up time is nigh.
This is Culture Catch-Up Time. This is where we talk about what we've watched, what we've read, what we've listened to, and probably some other stuff. Culture Catch-Up Time.
It's my turn to start.
It's your turn to start. That is what it's called. So, why don't you get going?
Yeah.
Go on, hurry up.
Oh, shut up, George.
Go, your time is wasting. Come on.
What? Don't make my brain just go. Bah! That's what it usually does when I'm under pressure. So this week I'm going to talk about what I watched after we recorded. I decided to watch The First Wives Club again to kind of you sent me a text saying that you were going to watch The Silence of the Lambs to kind of refresh your memory. So I thought, I'm going to do what George does. And I watched it. And it just reminded me how wonderful and simple a lot of 90s films are.
Sure.
How, like in the sense of like a warm, cuddly blanket. And so I decided to watch Sister Act 2 to make me feel like in a warm wrapped blanket. It's not great, but it's fun. It's just a good fun time. And
is it sort of more of the same, but the same is good, but it's not necessarily better, that kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. And what Sister Act 2 did to me in the 90s, what it was introduced Lauryn Hill as a singer, and I appreciate her and I love her, and her voice is incredible. It's good. In the end, she saves the school. Everybody's happy. All is good. Yeah.
Cool.
And then I watched another film which hasn't got great reviews, but I thought it might be good because I quite like Melissa McCarthy, and it's called Life of the Party.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a film like this. I think it's directed by Ben Falcone. Well, I would say Falcone, but I think in America you say Falcone.
No, I think it's Falco. I don't know.
Well, I say Falcone. Okay, it's directed by Ben Falcone or Falcone, depending where you are.
Falcone. Yeah, that's. Sorry, I thought you said Falco. I thought you were like it would be a silent
Falcone.
N. Why would it be a silent N?
No.
I understand you now. Sorry.
Sorry. And is written by Melissa McCarthy and Ben Falcone. They're married actually, and it stars, of course, Melissa McCarthy and Matt Walsh as her husband. Ben Falcone is in it as an Uber driver, and Maya Rudolph is in it. And it's it's the story of this woman that gets her husband suddenly asks for a divorce, and basically she realizes that she dropped out of college after falling pregnant with her husband, and she never had a job, and her husband had everything, the house, the money, and she suddenly asked for a divorce, and he's not willing to give her anything, which I think is illegal anyway, but it's a film. uh,
Yeah.
and so she decides to go back to school, American school, so university, to finish her law degree. A law? No, to finish her archaeology degree.
Yeah.
And she decides to finish her archaeology degree in the same university as her daughter. And she starts living a party life and sleeping with people. Well, only one person. And yeah. It's an okay film.
Yeah.
It's like it's enjoyable to watch. It's not, I think people might get offended by the like, oh, it's so bad, but it's not. It's got 4.5 stars out of 10, which is pretty low. It's
Yeah.
got some really funny comedy moments from Melissa McCarthy. Like, she's really good with the kind of physical comedy, and I had some like laugh out loud moments with that. And I don't know. I think it's a nice, entertaining film to watch on a Saturday afternoon when it's cold outside. I don't know. It's not bad. At least 7 stars I would give, not 4.5. That's like bad. And like it's not offensive. I feel like a 4.5 film is like an offensive film, like Batman v Superman. That's an offensive film to watch. But but this one is not. And I liked it. I thought it was simple enough, lovely enough, had good elements to it, and it had some really funny moments. So, is it 10 out of 10? No, but yeah. Is it silly? Yeah, but I like Melissa McCarthy. Do you like Melissa McCarthy? I don't know if you do.
No, not particularly.
Oh, okay.
I like her in stuff that Ben Falcone doesn't write and direct, but
Okay.
I don't. I think from what I've seen, the films they make together are not for me. Spy is a very good film, a very good Melissa McCarthy film.
Oh, I do like Spy. I like
Yeah.
Spy.
No,
Yeah.
I do think she's okay, but she's not the kind of. If a film is meant to be really good and she's in it, I'll watch it. But
Yeah.
I don't go out of my way to watch Melissa McCarthy films because I've seen a couple that I just wasn't keen on.
Yeah, I don't know. I just found it was just there. I watched it. It was entertaining, and I don't know. I have a really soft spot I've got a soft I've got a soft spot for her, because I used to who didn't, but I watched the Gilmore Girls, and she played Suki in it, and I just love the
Oh,
scenes,
yeah.
and I don't know. I just if she's in something, I'll watch it because I think she's lovely. And
I do like her in Gilmore Girls. Actually, I forgot she was in that. She's nice in that.
yeah, and she's
very
amazing
good.
in that. So
Yeah.
I have kind of a soft spot for her. But yeah, that does me feel. Those are my films for the week. After watching Sister Act 2, I remembered how much I like and love Lauryn Hill. And so I went to listen to the album The Score by the Fugees. That if what happened to me when I bought that album hadn't happened to me, it would have been probably in my top 5 bands today. So
Okay.
I'll explain what happened. So every summer I used to come to England with my parents to come and see family and stuff. And I think I watched. I think I don't know why I knew about Lauryn Hill. I think it was probably from Sister Act. When did Sister Act come out? I didn't think this through actually. Just a moment. When did Sister Act come out? 1993. And when did the Score? 1996. Yeah. So I must have known about Lauryn Hill from Sister Act and really enjoyed her. And then the Killing Me Softly song came out in Italy. it was the Fugees cover of Roberta Flack's song "Killing Me Softly," and I really liked that song. And so we went to England for the summer, and I bought, I think I bought the cassette of the score just because of that song. And it said parental guidance. But my parents have been always pretty like free with that. Like they never cared, as long as I was a good child. Like it wasn't a problem for them. But at that point, during our little travels around the UK, we were staying with this really conservative family. I think you met them in Wales.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And my mum never, ever confiscated anything from me, ever. Like I was 13 years old. She never confiscated anything from me. And so I bought this cassette with my money, and it disappeared. And because nothing ever was confiscated from me, I was certain I had lost it, like certain. And then my mum was like, oh, well, let's buy you the Roberta Flack. Since you only like that song, let's buy you the Roberta Flack CD, video cassette, audio cassette. And so, I was like, okay. So I was sure I lost it. And then years later, my mom was like, no, the lady we were staying with, she made me take it away from you because there were bad words. So I never got to listen to the album, which is a catastrophe because it's such a good album. It's an incredible album. It's so good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I listened to the Roberta Flack album, and that was good too. But yeah, so I listened to the album this week. Not that it was the first time, but I don't know. I just watched Sister Act and listened to that. It's really, really good. And I really enjoyed it. And it's an incredible album. If somebody, is it like if there is anyone that hasn't listened to it, listen to it because it's really, really good. And then after that, because I was in a Lauryn Hill 90s, I don't know, bubble, I listened to the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, an incredible album as well. So, so good, isn't it? Have you heard it?
Well, so I've never listened to the score by the Fugees.
Okay.
I'm the person that's never listened to it. Although I do like Killing Me Softly. I like the singles. I've just never listened to the album. But I have listened to The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. And for me, it's an amazing album, slightly undercut by the skits that I don't like.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, you either like them or I think they add to the album. I think they're quite like, I don't know, they're part of it because it's called The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, and she's in a school. And
I get it. I just think that they last too long and they should be separate tracks. And
I guess so, maybe. Yeah, but good album, released in 1998, and the only album released by Lauryn Hill.
She did release a second album, but it was like a weird MTV Unplugged album, and it's meant to be pretty terrible.
Oh, okay. I only knew about that one.
She did there was like MTV Unplugged, but she sort of, instead of doing songs like most artists when they're doing MTV Unplugged, they do like famous songs of theirs acoustically, but she did like a load of new stuff.
Okay.
But it didn't go down very well. Like it went down very badly, apparently.
Oh no.
She's quite a controversial figure nowadays for like turning up, not doing gigs properly and stuff. But that's an amazing album. I do like The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. There's some great songs on there.
But yeah, I wish the Fugees were my, I don't know. Well, they're not called the Fugees. They're called Fugees. But can I say the Fugees? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a devastating story of 90s censorship there from your parents.
I know, and I talked about it with my mum this week, and she was like, "Yeah, I can't believe I did it. Like, I never." But also, the amazing thing is, I've never nothing ever was confiscated from me again. So
why didn't she give it back to you once she'd stopped staying with those people?
Well, because it stayed there. Like we left, and the cassette stayed there.
Oh, she didn't. Why? That's bizarre. I've got questions for your mum.
I know, but I think my mum is one of those people that's like, when somebody is on her about something. I think the lady we were staying with, she was on at her, and she was like, "Oh, you know what? Just take it away." And yeah, but I was so certain I lost it.
Oh, mate. It's like when I was a kid and I had Return to Oz on VHS tape, the sequel to The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
And I used to watch it all the time, and it scared my mum because it had the wheelies in it. Have you seen Return to Oz?
No.
It has these men who have bicycle wheels for like hands instead of hands and feet, and they kind of roll around.
Ooh,
It's very
yeah.
and like there's a princess in it who takes her head off and replaces it with different heads, and she's got
my
this room
goodness.
full of heads.
Sounds awful.
It's really creepy. I really liked it, but my mum found it terrifying. And one day she just threw the videotape away, but told me that that it had like gone missing, so that she
See?
wouldn't have to watch it anymore.
Parents are the worst.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Fugees and Return to Oz,
I
two
know.
controversial.
But I don't
Artifacts.
know. Like, I feel like maybe my musical taste would have been totally different if I had the opportunity of having that album and enjoying that album. But then I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows? And the
I don't
last thing
Yeah.
I want to talk about is this band called Infinity. No, what are they called? Just a moment. I'm really confused by them. No,
Imagine
this
Dragons.
band.
Imagine Dragons.
Imagine Dragons. Oh, yeah. They are called Infinity Song, and they released an album called Mad Love. And they're a group of, I think, like they're. It's really hard because there's no Wikipedia and there's no nothing. I think they're a group of brothers and sisters, from New York. They're a sibling band, so I assume they're all brothers and sisters. Yeah.
Sure, that sounds
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, and they all play an instrument, and they released this album last year, 2020, called Mad Love, and it's a really, really interesting album and really, really not really good actually. I really enjoyed it because it's kind of it feels like there's lots of different styles, and I think it's because of how they are as siblings. After reading their like brothers and sisters, kind of made the album made more sense to me because it felt like they had like an amalgamation of different styles and different concepts, and because they're all musicians, they also like incorporate lots of like different instruments in it, and I find it like a really good album. And not the first time I listened to it. I listened to it for a few times because I don't know. There were some songs I really liked and some songs I didn't really get, and then now it just I don't know. It's a really good album, and I would recommend it. And it's by this sibling band called Infinity Song, but they're in 5. So if they're a sibling band, well done, mum, for making 5 children.
Yeah.
And but yeah, really, really good. Really kind of soulful and nice, and I really, really liked it. And that was my recent addition for the week because the rest has been the 90s.
Yes, of course, similar. Yeah.
Because they've been I had to study for this week, and also I felt comforted by them this week.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's it for my culture catch up. How about you?
Yeah, so I've got a few things to discuss. First of all, big video game release this week for me. Hitman 3 came out, which, if you've listened to our top 5 video games episode, you'll know that Hitman 2 is one of my favourite games of all time. So I was pretty excited about Hitman 3. I've put about 20 hours into it so far, and it is brilliant. It's everything I liked from Hitman 2, but put into Hitman 3, and they've done the thing again where all of the content from Hitman 1 and 2 is now imported into Hitman 3. So within Hitman 3, all of the levels are there to play from all of the games, and it's pretty great. They veer a little bit closer to story in this one, with because it's the conclusion of a trilogy. They kind of go all in on the story, and they did it a few years ago with a game called Hitman Absolution, which is my least favorite Hitman game because it's all about story, and it's got that like, do you know like all those films that try to copy Quentin Tarantino where all of the women are sex objects and all of the men look like professional wrestlers and everyone is swearing at each other all the time, like that kind of thing. Like they did that in a Hitman game, and it was awful. I hated it, and and it was also so story focused. It had none of the actual fun stuff from Hitman. And this new one veers a bit close to maybe going in that direction, but for me they avoid it, and it's brilliant. So Hitman 3. Then a couple of TV shows. First of all, Disney Plus. Finally, we have our first new Marvel content since 2019 with the release of WandaVision. At the point, WandaVision, the story of Scarlet Witch and Vision living a beautiful life in a sitcom world somewhere. They've put out 3 episodes so far, and I am really enjoying it. Have you watched any of it yet?
No, not yet. No.
Not yet. You should definitely get on it. It's brilliant.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's like each episode's half an hour long, so it's not too long, and then it seems to be that each episode is a different decade of sitcoms. So the first episode is all in black and white, and it's very much based on the Dick Van Dyke Show from the 50s. And then the second episode moves into the 60s. It's still in black and white, but then it's more based on, I think it's I Dream of Jeannie.
Okay.
And then at the end of the third episode, it sort of goes into... At the end of the second episode, it still goes into colour, and then the third episode is set in the 70s, and all the fashion changes along with it and stuff. It's really cool. And then from what I've heard, it's going to go like 80s, 90s, noughties, and there'll even be like an episode that's like a kind of Office or Parks and Recreation sort of thing. So it's pretty cool. And then the story, the overall actual like Marvel story that's going with it is really intriguing and interesting. And the newest episode that I just saw, the 70s one, was brilliant. It has this amazing scene at the end where it all gets really sinister and weird. So I'd recommend, WandaVision seems like a pretty cool thing. Then I also finally got around to checking out on Netflix The Queen's Gambit. The thing that came out in 2020 and became pretty quickly the most successful thing Netflix have ever done. Stars Anya Taylor-Joy, an actress I really like, as a chess prodigy in the sort of 50s and 60s, I think, is mainly when it's set. And I was pretty skeptical of it because it's about chess, and I wasn't really... I'm not a big chess person. But it is one of the best TV shows I've seen in a long time. It turns out it's absolutely incredible. It's so good. The final episode is the most satisfying finale I've seen of a TV show in such a long time. It pulls together everything that's come in it's 7 episodes long, so it pulls together everything from the previous 6 episodes. It pays off every little thing that they've done, and is just completely satisfying to watch. And when it ends, you're just like, oh, that was perfect. And what I love so much about it is the main character, Elizabeth Harmon, played by Anya Taylor-Joy, who's a chess prodigy. Like, it opens with her in an orphanage in like the 50s, and she's 9 and she starts being taught chess by the janitor. And then it kind of goes through her life as she becomes, goes up to she wants to compete against Russians. Is the ultimate goal is that she wants to compete in Moscow against Russian players because they're like the top. Like there's never been an American that could beat. Even the best American players can never beat Russians at chess because it's sort of their thing. So it would very easy, and a lot of times, sports dramas or dramas about kind of prodigies and things, the character is always like amazing at the one thing that they like, and then all the drama comes from like, but they're terrible at talking to people and terrible at this and they're terrible at that, and like, but they actually portray Elizabeth Harmon in this, the main character, as being incredibly proficient and smart, as well as like socially aware and funny and interesting. And she's got one big problem, Achilles heel, which is like addiction, and it builds on that really well. It shows how she gets this issue with addiction as a child, and it kind of follows her through her life. And those are kind of that's where the drama and the problems in the series come from. But I really like that it doesn't present her as kind of like, what's the phrase? I don't know what the phrase is. Idiot savant? I don't know if that's... But it doesn't portray her as like completely useless at everything except for chess. Like, she's an amazing person, and then also she's like good at chess. So it's a different take for me on that kind of thing, because I feel like that's not the normal way to go. And it's brilliant. And it's got some great, like, she's really good in it, and then it's got the guy that played Dudley in the Harry Potter movies is in it, and he's just proving himself to be an amazing actor recently because he's shown up in a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
So The Queen's Gambit. I gave that 5 stars. I would massively recommend that to everybody. It is fantastic. Then I've got a few films I watched. I went on Disney Plus and watched the new Pixar movie Soul, finally. Have you seen Soul?
No, not yet.
So I was a bit... What was I? I'm not skeptical so much, but like Pete, the guy who directed Soul, the new Pixar movie, is Pete Docter, who made, I think he made Monsters, Inc., Up, and Inside Out. And if you're going to do like a ranking of the best Pixar movies, like I think all three of those would be pretty near the top. So it's like kind of
definitely
Pixar's secret weapon in the. So it's almost like watching a new film from him is a bit intimidating in a way because it's like it has to be perfect basically. And Soul is a story about a guy who's a jazz teacher. He teaches high school music, but he's a jazz pianist. And the film sort of opens with him teaching this class, and it's obvious that like teaching high school music isn't his dream. He gets an opportunity to perform in a sort of jazz band with a sax. I think it's a saxophonist that he really respects, this lady. And he's so excited about finally having this big break that he hops off down the street, all excited about his big break, and he falls in a manhole and dies. And then cut to him on this big staircase as a spirit going up to what is essentially meant to be heaven. And he's like, what's going on? What's happened? I've got my big break finally. And the entire movie is him. He breaks off this staircase. He falls down to, I think, an area they call the Great Before, which is where souls are. The idea of the film is that he's in this place now where like souls are given their personalities before they are sent to Earth to be a person or to live a life, if you see what I mean.
Okay.
And he ends up getting matched up with this soul that's never been successfully given a personality and sort of has to try and... He has to try and help her find her personality. Or no, sorry. It's voiced by Tina Fey, but it's not coded, actually. The pronoun would be they, I think. So this soul has never successfully been given a personality. There's loads of funny jokes about how like people like Confucius and just loads of famous people from throughout history have tried to help this soul find a personality and no one succeeded. So his task is to try and help them find their personality, and their task is to kind of help him get back to his body. And it's a really beautiful, heartwarming story. It's life affirming. Ultimately, it's not actually depressing about the fact that he dies at the start, because it never really treats it as him having died, if you see what I mean. Okay. It's really, really funny. It's got some great voice actors in it. The main guy is voiced by Jamie Foxx. The main soul is voiced by Tina Fey. And then in the supporting cast, it's like I'd say like almost the third highest kind of speaking role is Graham Norton.
Ah, no. Amazing.
Yeah, I this character turns up and started speaking. I was like, I know who you are. Hello, Graham. What are you doing here in a Pixar film? But he's really funny in it. And then, and I hope I'm not getting her name wrong. Is it Rachel House, the lady who's in Taika Waititi's movies?
Oh, yes. I think so. What?
I think she's called Rachel House. Yes, she is. Yeah. Yeah, she's in it voicing this kind of this sort of spirit whose job is to count all the souls as they go into heaven, and obviously the count's off because Jamie Foxx escapes. So she's kind of in the background of the film, trying to track him down. It's kind of exactly the role she plays in Hunt for the Wilder People, I'm realising now as I talk about it. And she's very, very funny, and Richard Ayoade is in it as well. Yeah, it's got a good cast. It's really funny. It's really heartwarming. I'd say it's probably not quite up there with like Inside Out, which is my favourite of I think it's pretty much. I think I put it as number one in my favourite animated films actually. So it's not as good as Inside Out, but it's really good, and I'd massively recommend watching it. So yeah, check out Soul for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I watched. I won't spend too long on it, but I watched Birds of Prey, the Harley Quinn movie. Have you seen that?
No. Like, is this?
It was a 2020 film.
Okay, so there was the Suicide Squad.
They did Suicide
Birds
Squad
of
in
Prey
2016.
is from Okay.
Yeah. So it's the same Margot Robbie.
Yeah. Okay, because I heard the Suicide Squad is pretty bad.
Suicide Squad is awful. Yeah.
Okay.
But last year they released Birds of Prey: or the Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, and it's a Harley Quinn movie with a few other female kind of heroes and villains in it. And I saw it when it came out in the cinema last year and thought it was okay. And I watched it again recently for the second time and thought it was fantastic. I think it's actually a brilliant really fun hit superhero movie
Okay.
that doesn't do the things all like it's just a crime film actually, but Harley Quinn happens to be the main character in it. Like it's not got supernatural stuff really. It's not got like a huge world-ending catastrophe. The villain is Black Mask, who's just a gangster in Gotham City, but he's played by Ewan McGregor, who is incredible.
Okay.
He plays this crime lord as if he's kind of like Elton John in the middle of a tantrum. There's this bit where
Yeah.
he's showing a character around his kind of lair, and he's got all these shrunken heads. And he's like, this was a person 500 years ago, and now they're just a thing on my wall. I love it. Ooh, it's just, it's such a weird performance.
Yeah.
It's like the most fun movie. It's a really good film. You should definitely check it out. I think you'd like it. It's like everything that Suicide Squad kind of should have been. The Harley Quinn movie manages to be. So yeah, it's really, really good. Then, similarly to you, I went back to my some of my 90s loves, and I watched the first Ace Ventura movie.
Okay.
Because you'll remember from last week, I put the second Ace Ventura movie in my top 5 90s films, and I stand by that, having rewatched the first one, because it's funny. And I know we talked a lot last week about how you can't hold them, you can't judge them by today's standards so much, like films from the past and like films from the 90s, which is totally true to a point. But I mean, there is a point in the first Ace Ventura movie where he realizes that a character he has kissed is actually a man. And the sequences following that revelation are so disturbing by when you watch it today that it's not funny. And then the film focuses on that so much that it's sort of, there's nothing else to enjoy. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's a whole scene of him, like there's a bit, everyone remembers the bit at the end where he reveals it to everyone else and everyone starts like spitting and stuff. But there's a bit where he's in his apartment and he realizes it and he's on his own, and there's like this whole montage of him like brushing his teeth and chewing gum and then taking off all his clothes and putting his clothes in a bin and setting them on fire and having a shower. And it's like, it's just, and I'm not gonna tell, like, I actually liked it. It's a funny movie. The first hour of it is really, really funny, but the last 20 minutes really let it down, because it goes for me, it crosses the line from like something from the 90s that you can understand to like something that is kind of genuinely quite hateful. But the first hour of that movie is hilarious, and it's just unfortunate. Never mind. Then I watched again an amazing film, 1995, David Fincher directed, Seven.
Oh, Seven! What a
7.
great film.
Oh my word. I have
What a
not
great
seen that film since I was in probably my early 20s maybe. It's been a while. I couldn't believe how incredible it is. I'd forgotten. It's from start to finish. It's a perfect like serial killer procedural thriller. If you haven't seen Seven, it's a story of Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt are two police detectives. Morgan Freeman is 1 week away from retirement. Brad Pitt is the new young detective that's come in to replace him, and they both end up investigating these crimes where people are being sort of either murdered or tortured in line with the 7 deadly sins. So the first one they find is this enormous man that's burst inside because he's been force-fed all this spaghetti sauce. And that's gluttony. And then the second one is... What's the second one where it's greed. There's a lawyer that's had been made to cut a pound of flesh from his own body. And that's greed. And it sort of goes from there.
Yeah.
And it's dark and dreary. I love how it's set in the city, and they never tell you what city it's set in, but every scene, I think literally every single scene set outside in the city, it's raining. And near the end of the movie, they leave the city and go to a desert area, and I think that's the first time in the entire film it's not raining. It's it's a perfectly made movie. It's so good. It's got an all-time horrific ending that when I watched it when I was a teenager, I didn't quite understand. It was a bit like, well, there's only been 5. Where's the last 2 cool murders? I don't understand. But watching it as an adult, I feel like you have the emotional maturity once you're grown up and you understand the world to kind of see how truly horrific what happens at the end is, and how it's actually the killer has succeeded in what he wanted to do. It's awful. That's actually the only kind of negative thing about the movie, again with today's standards, is that Kevin Spacey plays the killer. and it's a bit of a, and it's almost, I almost felt like, because he's not in the credits at the start, and it's almost a surprise that he's in the film. He doesn't come into it until an hour and a half, and it almost feels like Netflix should almost put a warning on the start that Kevin Spacey. Do you know what I mean?
It's bizarre though. Like I cannot watch any film with him. Like it makes like I can't.
It's tough. Yeah, it's tough. In Seven, he's in it for such a short amount of time, and he's
Yeah.
playing such a horrible character that you're a bit like, I hate
Yeah.
you, and I hate you in every way that I can imagine, but also I hate your character. So then I watched a film. It's not a '90s film because it came out in 2001, but it really feels like a '90s film that I had never seen before. I was like, I figured I'll finally get around to watching it. It's the film that won Denzel and his second Oscar, 2001's Training Day.
Oh, that's a good film.
Yeah, starring Ethan Hawke and Denzel Washington. And within about 5 minutes, I was like, okay, I know why Denzel won an Oscar for this film. The interesting thing with Training Day for me is, and I'm about to criticise it a bit, but it's a 4-star film for me. I really liked it. But I just think it's interesting to note that it was written, I think it was the first film written by David Ayer, who went on to be a writer and director of such films as Suicide Squad and Sabotage, End of Watch, Fury, The Tax Collector, I think is his. I don't like his films. Like, the films he's written and directed are bad, and I think he's a pretty bad at story, and I think that's where the only thing Training Day falls down on is some of the story is a bit clunky, and like, there's a bit where he rescues a girl from being assaulted in an alleyway, and then he picks up her ID and realizes how young she was. And then right at the end of the movie, there's a bit where he's about to be killed, and just by total chance, they check his pockets, and he happens to have this ID still on him, and it happens to be the cousin of the girl that he had rescued is who's about to murder him, so he doesn't murder him because he'd rescued. And it's just a bit like, it's not bad, but it's in retrospect, it feels like a David Ayer move in terms of it just being a bit clunky. Do you see what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that Denzel is the reason to watch that film. Like, he makes it.
Absolutely.
Some of the plot stuff is a bit like, really? Okay. But, yeah, it was cool. Then I won't talk about this one for too long because there's not too much to say, but it's another David Fincher movie. Again, I think it's from the early 2000s rather than the 90s, but it feels like a 90s film. Jodie Foster in Panic Room.
Ah, yes. I watched that film like in the when it came out. I don't think I remember much of it, but yeah.
So it's Jodie Foster plays a woman who's just left her husband, and Kristen Stewart, before she was known as anyone, plays her daughter as like a teenager. And they move into this big house in New York that happens to have a panic room installed in the master bedroom, which is basically, I think the funny thing is now, I feel like everyone knows what a panic room is. It might be because of this film, but there's a scene in the film where they have to explain what a panic room is, and it's a bit like, come on, we get it. It's a room that you go and hide in when your house gets invaded. And ultimately, the house gets invaded by Forrest Whitaker, who's always good, Dwight Yoakam, who's like a country singer, and Jared Leto, who is, again, the thing where when you look back on it with from today, you're like, he ruins it a bit by being in it. But basically, they come in to steal something that the previous owner left in the house. Jodie Foster wakes up and sees that they're in the house and takes her daughter and hides in the panic room. And the twist is the thing that the robbers want to steal is hidden inside the panic room. So they're in, but essentially a siege starts where they're trying to get Jodie Foster to come out of the panic room, and Jodie Foster won't because obviously they'll kill her. It's a pretty stupid film, but because it's directed by David Fincher, who did Seven, it's a pretty competently made stupid film that's very, very entertaining. And if you've never seen Panic Room and you want to just be able to enjoy yourself for a couple of hours, I would definitely recommend checking it out. It's on Netflix in the UK, so it's not too hard to watch. But I feel like most people saw it when it came out. But anyway. Then there's only one other film I watched, but I think I'll save it for homework. And we'll talk about it in homework because it's sort of linked to your homework, if you see what I mean.
Okay.
Other than that, the only thing to talk about is it's been a bit of a big start of the year for post-punk bands. And three post-punk bands have put out albums, and I just want to very quickly talk about all three of them. First of all, a band from, I think, Swedish punk band called Viagra Boys put out an album called Welfare Jazz, which is a very weird album, but pretty enjoyable. And if you like kind of slightly off the wall, sort of the Fall-esque stuff with kind of mad saxophone all over it and stuff like that, then check out that. It's interesting. Second, a band called Shame, which are kind of an up-and-coming post-punk band that are mates with the Idols boys and stuff, put out their second album called Drunk Tank Pink. And I've listened to it a couple of times, and for me, it's just okay. It's just fine. It doesn't quite do it for me. But a lot of Idols fans have been kind of going crazy over it and stuff. And, if you like it, that's great, but it hasn't quite done it for me. Then, the big one, the one that I am incredibly conflicted about liking and still can't quite decide how to feel about it, is the new album from Sleaford Mods called Spare Ribs. Have you ever listened to Sleaford Mods? So
I don't think so.
They're a duo, and it's a guy who makes the beats and music and stuff, and it's all kind of quite simple electronic beats. That's what their music is. It's this guy who does that, and then they've got a singer/rapper who kind of does rapping or poetry over the top of it. And it's a very interesting sound, and they're super. The thing about them is they're very, very working class. Like they're a working class band. They sort of talk about working class issues and stuff like that. They have a song. There's a great performance of them. I'll try and remember to put it in the show notes. Doing a song called Job Seeker on Jules Holland, which is really good. Like a funny song, but also like really searing.
Oh, now because it did ring a bell.
Yeah.
They're in an episode of Adam Buxton, aren't they?
Yes, yeah, they were on an. Yes, they have been on.
I did not like their vibe.
Well, that's the thing. So
because I felt like because you told me that some people feel like idols shouldn't sing about what they sing about because they haven't been experienced or they're not experienced enough. When I was listening to them on Adam Buxton, I felt like those were the kind of people, and you can be working class, but you say you're working class, but then you are basically putting down another band for trying to bring the issue forward, and I feel like you are bad, and I didn't like their attitude. I felt like they were a bit like, oh well. So I it's the first time that I skipped an episode because they were really annoying me because I felt like they were up themselves, and you're saying you're working class, and you say but you're totally up your own ass and you're annoying.
So they are the band that have said that specifically about idols. Like it's them that have said that about idols.
Is it them?
Yeah.
Oh wow! Because
so
they did not mention idols, but at one point they were like, "Well, there are some bands that shouldn't," and I was like, "Oh, are you talking about idols?" And I was like, "I hate you already, so go away."
Yeah, that's exactly right, and that's the thing is like idols fans really dislike Sleaford Mods, and they do have that vibe of like being a bit gatekeepy, in my opinion, and like only working class people should be able to talk about working class issues kind of vibe. Which does get on my nerves because obviously I really love idols and I feel like I don't know, like class is obviously important, but also I don't know what my class is. I'm not middle class, I don't think. I'm definitely not upper class. I'm probably not working class. I don't quite know where I fit in on that. So what am I allowed to kind of complain about? Like I work with people who struggle in life and try to support them in my job and stuff. I feel quite conflicted about it all. The issue is that the guy in Sleaford Mods writes really searing, funny, witty lyrics, and when he is taking aim at something that I don't like, it's great. But when he's taking aim at something that I do like, it makes it tough. And the thing with this album is it's brilliant. Like I can put aside the fact that I disagree with them on their stances on idols and things like that. Listen to the album itself and see that it is a brilliant album. Musically, they're great. Like they are bangers, these songs. They are so good to listen to. And then his lyrics, they have one song called Nudge It, which is like a direct diss track of idols. Again, it doesn't name them, but it talks about like class tourists and stuff like that, and it annoys me. But again, the music is brilliant, so it's tough because it's a good song. So it's a fun song. Yeah. But then they have a song called Shortcomings, but Cummings is spelt like Dominic Cummings. And it's this song just basically tearing into him. And a bunch of songs on the album are clearly taking direct aim at Dominic Cummings. And that whole thing, and taking aim at the current Tory government, all of this stuff, and they're great and they're funny and they're really offensive. Like the language they use is quite colourful to say the least, and it's brilliant stuff. And I really, really, really like it. And it just makes me conflicted and upset that I know, like, my favourite band don't get on with them. They hate my favourite band and all of this stuff. And I feel like, it's like the 90s. It's like a budget Poundland version of Blur v Oasis. Really, it's ridiculous that we're still doing it. So yeah, like I say, I don't like their stance on that kind of thing, and it irritates me. But their new album, Spare Ribs, it is a really good album. It's a brilliant album. They've made a really good album. I just wish that they would grow up a bit, but never mind.
Sit down at the back and be quiet and get out your book because it's time to discuss your homework. Now.
Okay, so before we do our homework, we have a top 5 90s films from UG. Okay, and there are numbers, which is rare. So, number 5, Home Alone. Classic.
Nice. Classic film.
Beautiful. Classic. Number 4, Ghost.
The Patrick Swayze film.
Patrick Swayze and Whoopi Goldberg and Demi Moore.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's a good film. I like it.
I haven't seen it,
number
but I'm
3,
sure it's good.
Have you not seen it?
Nah.
Why not? It's fun. Patrick Swayze is the best.
Okay.
Number 3, another film with Whoopi Goldberg, the Sister Act.
Lovely stuff.
Lovely stuff. Number 2, The Green Mile.
Okay.
And number 1, a film that I'm going to have problems saying is The Shawshank Redemption.
Wow, so The Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile up top.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Amazing.
Frank
I always
Darabont.
get confused which one is which.
The Green Mile is the one about death row with Tom Hanks, and The Shawshank Redemption is the one with Morgan Freeman about just living in prison, life in prison.
Yeah. Great list. Thank you, Yuji.
Yeah, very good list. Thanks, Yuji. Homework!
Okay, homework time. So I'm going to start. So last week we talked about the 90s, top 5 films of the 90s, and you told me to watch The Silence of the Lambs, a film that is iconic. I know about it. I've known about it for a very long time, but never watched it because Anthony Hopkins is terrifying.
But not as terrifying as Buffalo Bill, in my opinion.
I didn't find Buffalo Bill. I didn't find him terrifying.
Oh, interesting. Okay, sorry, I don't derail you. Go on.
So, this is the story of FBI trainee Clarice Starling, played by Jodie Foster. She is recruited, I guess, by
Jack Crawford.
By Dr. Crawford, and he asks her to go and see Dr. Hannibal Lecter to I didn't really understand what the reasoning was at the beginning, but just to kind of like talk to him. Like,
well, the idea is that
there's no really at the beginning when you watch the film, there's not really a reason why she goes, but then you figure out why he sends her. So yeah. So she goes because basically she really likes Dr. Crawford.
Is he a doctor? You
him.
keep calling him Dr. Crawford. I don't think he's a doctor.
He's not a doctor, is he?
It's just FBI
They're all
director.
Doctors.
Crawford.
The
Jack
FBI
Crawford.
director is behavioral science unit.
Yeah. That's it. It's not the director.
Yeah.
Agent Crawford.
Agent Crawford.
Or Jack Crawford.
And he basically sends her to talk to Hannibal Lecter to kind of get to know him. But then the film goes on and we find out that he actually sends her there to pick Hannibal Lecter's brains for an actual investigation that's going on at the moment. Hannibal Lecter is in a high security prison because he is a cannibal. Hannibal the cannibal.
He's a regular army hammer.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
And, allegedly. And and then he kind of helps, and they have to find this guy that skins people,
Buffalo Bill.
girls, women, Buffalo Bill. Yeah, that's it really.
Broadly, yeah. I mean, it's about her being sent to him to try and get him to help them catch Buffalo Bill.
Yeah, perfect. The film is, well, first of all, it's a classic 90s film, and 2 hours like fly, bam, gone.
Oh
Action
yeah,
from
it
the
moves.
start.
Every
Pam,
shot.
pam,
Yeah.
pam, pam, pam. And because when I saw there was 2 hours, like, oh, I don't want to
Yeah.
watch 2
Well, I love it
hours.
because I watched it again recently as well, and I checked. I think
Yeah.
it's like 12 minutes in, and she's already talking to Hannibal.
Yeah,
Like
I
it
know.
goes.
And 12 minutes in, she's talking to him, and it's like face, face, face. Like the shots are pretty cool, of like full face shot of them talking. So and it's kind of weary, isn't it? From the start when she talks to Agent Crawford, when he sends her to talk to Hannibal Lecter, it's like they have a conversation, but you only see their faces. And apparently, the thing was that the person would talk directly to the camera, but Jodie Foster would always look a little bit sideways just to kind of like see what Jodie Foster was seeing,
Yeah, completely.
which is really, really interesting.
And it does it with
And
the
then-
victim of Buffalo Bill as well, I think. There's a lot of shots looking up the well at him where you're really put in her perspective.
Yeah.
Like Buffalo Bill's looking
Yeah.
directly down at the camera.
Yeah. I guess so. Yeah. Don't remember that very much. Yeah. But yeah, so she gets down to the cellar where she is, and before going where Hannibal Lecter is, but before going in, she meets another terrifying character, which is the doctor. What's the name of the doctor?
Oh, what's his name? He's horrible. Chilton, Dr. Chilton.
Dr. Chilton, who is horrific. It made me sick. I was like,
Yeah, he's
when
like the
she
worst.
first
He's worse than Hannibal. He's like the worst man in
is
the movie.
worse than Hannibal. Like, oh god, it was awful. Like when she arrives at the facility where Hannibal Lecter is, it just like, oh, I felt, is it gonna be a film full of gross characters? And it is, because then she goes and talks to Hannibal Lecter, and they have that confrontation, and it's a film where they say something to Clarice, and she does the opposite of what she's supposed to do. They say, don't go near the glass. And what does she do? She goes near the glass. Don't tell him anything about yourself. And what does she do? She tells him about herself. You go, oh, just Clarice, just listen. But she doesn't.
Well,
Which
yeah, well.
I found that quite nerve-wracking, because I was just like, Clarice, just listen. But yeah, she goes and talks to Hannibal Lecter, and that's a pretty intense scene. I did
Yeah.
not like that. And then there's the use of the C word, which in American TV is like, oh my God.
Yeah, in the early 90s to have that word in there.
In the early 90s. And she has this this thing with Hannibal Lecter, and is a nice conversation, but also is terrifying. Anthony Hopkins doesn't blink. And apparently he took that from lizards. He said that lizards only blink when they want to, and he decided to do that. Well done, Anthony. And then when she leaves the facility, Hannibal, and it's been a pleasurable conversation, apart from the fact that he told her that he ate somebody's liver with some Chianti.
Lovely.
She then goes to, like, start walking away, and this guy that called her the C word basically like throws spunk at her.
Yeah, assaults her, really, yeah.
That was like unexpected.
Yes, and I definitely, when I first watched The Silence of the Lambs when I was about 12, I didn't know that I didn't understand that that's what had happened.
That was unexpected.
Yeah.
And then she finds solace. Solace? Comfort?
Comfort.
Comfort in Hannibal, because she runs back to him. She touches the glass, which she shouldn't touch. Don't touch the glass, Clarice. And she
Because
touches the glass.
it gets him all aggravated, doesn't it?
Yeah.
because his whole thing is he doesn't so much go into it in that movie, but he killed rude people. Like he hates rudeness and like he eats
Yeah.
the rude.
Yeah. Yeah. So okay, as a film, it's good. It's interesting. It's got some really interesting points. It's got there's some gruesome bits, but not too gruesome. Like definitely Anthony Hopkins makes that film. If he hadn't been Hannibal Lecter, I think it would have been a very different film, because I feel like his presence is known throughout the film, even if you see him only 4 times.
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
Like,
Although I think Jodie Foster is pretty
she's
amazing
good.
in it.
She's good. She's good. But I also was like, I don't know, like when she goes in the house and you go, don't go in the house, don't go in the house, just don't go in the house. Like I wouldn't go in the house. I felt
Maybe.
like maybe, like I know it's a horror, like a thriller, and you have to go in the house. But also when he disappears, Buffalo Bill, you don't go running after him. You go out, you find a phone. You don't go in the house.
But she
Do
knows
not
that
go
he has
downstairs.
a victim that could still be alive down there.
Of course, but he's not going to kill her in 5 seconds.
He might do.
He might do, but don't go in the house. Don't go in the cellar. Don't go in
Well,
the cellar.
and that's why she's an FBI agent and you're not.
No, you go and find a phone. And that's the moment I was like, no more about phones. That would be awful. Like, awful. But no, it's a good, entertaining film. It's like, it's kind of, it's got some good nerve-wracking moments. It's got some good funny moments. Anthony Hopkins is the best. The cast is good. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I didn't feel like the only thing that really annoyed me was certain decisions that Clarice makes, which I feel that maybe wouldn't be translated now, because I don't feel like now you would. I don't know. I feel like when she runs after him, don't run after him. That's the most idiotic idea, because you don't know what's on the other side. So if you want to save the woman, you save the girl. If you want to save the girl, you need to be more intelligent than what you've done, because you might die as well.
Yeah, maybe. But
So
the
I
thing
felt
is,
decision-
she is still just a trainee. She's young. And the film, I think, does a really good job of, throughout the movie, it places her amongst men. Like,
that's
right from the
amazing.
start, when
Yeah.
she's running, the
Yeah.
men are running past her and staring at her.
Yeah.
There's that incredible scene where she tells them all to leave that body. And she's
Yeah.
like, go on now, get on now. We'll take it from
Yeah.
here. And the
Oh,
bit
yeah,
where
those are amazing.
Crawford uses her being a woman as an excuse to talk privately with the doctor or whatever, and she has a go at it. She actually tells him later, it's like, they look up to you, it's important what you do.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I don't know, there's an element of her feeling always like she has to do more because she's a woman, and I think that's why she runs after him at the end, is because she feels like it's her responsibility to kind of do it and prove herself and that stuff. So I see what you mean. Like it's maybe not the smartest decision, but in the split second of the moment, it's the decision she makes.
Yeah.
And
the moment where there's the X-ray, not the X-ray vision, the night vision goggles. I was like, oh my god, no. Yeah, I was very annoying to watch that film with. No. Go outside.
What did you think of Buffalo Bill?
I don't know. Like it was an interesting. Like, what do you mean? What do you think about him?
I think it's a really. I think he's scary, and like that they I think is it Ted Bundy, or it's some famous serial killer used to kidnap women by pretending to have a broken arm and bundling them into the back of his van, and they took
Ted
that from
Bundy.
real life, and put it in the film. And that's really scary.
That was really
and just
scary.
the way he won't talk to. Like I listened to a podcast about it recently. They pointed out a thing where like Hannibal is all about getting inside somebody's mind and wanting to know them before he harms them. Like especially with Clarice, he wants to know everything he can about her. Whereas Buffalo Bill really wants to view his victims as not having a mind at all and is only interested in their body because he wants to make a skin suit.
Oh my goodness!
And so when he's talking to that girl that he's got in the well, and he's like, it puts the lotion on its skin or it gets the hose again. It won't refer to her as a person or use her name, just it and stuff. I find that really creepy. But then also, I think it's a really fun performance from Ted Levine, and in particular, his voice is really I think it was Adam Buxton actually once talked a lot about how much fun it is to imitate him. Whereas like lines like, oh wait, was she a great big fat person? And stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting trivia thing of I don't like it, but you've seen Family Guy, right?
Yeah.
You know Chris the son.
Yeah.
His voice is voiced by Seth Green, and it is Seth Green doing an impression of Buffalo Bill. Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh
Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know. I obviously he's not as good in it necessarily. He doesn't get as much to do to be as good as Anthony Hopkins and stuff. But I don't know. I like Buffalo Bill, and I like that. I like that performance. I love Scott Glenn as Jack Crawford and Jodie Foster as Clarice Starr. I mean, I watched that film. I watched it recently, obviously, because I knew you were going to watch it for homework, and I wanted to watch it again. And for me, every single scene is perfect, and I just from beginning to end, that's one of my favorite films.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good, and also it just goes. It just action, go. You know, when Hannibal escapes, it's like, oh my god, and then you go, oh no, we know what happened.
Yeah, that sequence is good though, right? The escape sequence.
It's so good. It's so good.
When they walk into that room and it cuts to that angel, he's made the guy into an angel on the side of the cage. The imagery is so disturbing.
Yeah. And when the last scene, when Anthony Hopkins goes, I'm gonna have an old friend for dinner. It's like, oh.
Yeah, I'm having an old friend for dinner.
You are, aren't you? Oh, yeah. Thank God, because that doctor was awful.
Yeah, Dr. Chilton is horrible.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, it was good. I'm glad I watched it because I've put it off because of what it was, and yeah, that was good.
So I watched as well because I watched Silence of the Lambs in preparation for this, and then afterwards I was like, God, I want more. And they made Hannibal in 2001, I think. Ridley Scott directed Hannibal with Anthony Hopkins. I don't like that film very much. It takes the horror out of Hannibal and turns into a bit of a panto villain. It's not for me. It's okay, but I don't love that movie. It's flawed, deeply flawed. But in 2002, just 1 year later, Brett Ratner made Red Dragon, which was the third and currently final time that Anthony Hopkins reprised the character. And Red Dragon is a prequel to The Silence of the Lambs.
Ah, okay.
And stars Edward Norton, the brilliant Edward Norton, as FBI agent Will Graham, who is an FBI agent, the one who caught Hannibal Lecter, and then retires after catching Hannibal Lecter. And Red Dragon, very similarly to Silence of the Lambs, is about Will Graham being brought out of retirement to try and track down a new serial killer that's murdering families. And Jack Crawford... It's funny how much Jack Crawford uses this strategy. Jack Crawford gets Will Graham to go and ask Anthony Hopkins to help solve the crime. And, you know, Jonathan Demme, who directed Silence of the Lambs, made an almost perfect movie in my book and like won Best Director Oscar for it and stuff like that. Whereas Brett Ratner, who made Red Dragon, is the guy that made X-Men 3 and the Rush Hour films. He's not the same type of director, if you see what I mean. So I've only seen it once before, and I remember really disliking it because I think at the time Silence of the Lambs was absolutely my favourite film ever, and it just isn't the same. But watching it again recently, do you know what? It's really entertaining and it's really fun. And if you want more fun, camp, and Hannibal stuff, Red Dragon is kind of like the McDonald's equivalent of Silence of the Lambs, like three-course French cuisine. Do you see what I mean?
Okay.
The cast is incredible, though. Like, you've got Ralph Fiennes playing the killer. You've got Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter. You've got Edward Norton as Will Graham. This time, Jack Crawford is played by Harvey Keitel. You've got a reporter in it, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman.
What?
Yeah, like, it's a wild cast. The cast is so good. That it's just an entertaining, really fun procedural serial killer film. So if you're interested at all, I would recommend checking out Red Dragon as well, Silence of the Lambs, and maybe just giving it a bit of the benefit of the doubt and not expecting as much art from it as you'd get from Silence, but still having a fun time. So yeah.
Mm.
Okay, so that's our Hannibal corner finished.
Yeah.
Time to move on and
Bye-bye.
talk about a film called The First Wives Club, which is from, when did it come out? 1996, I feel like.
I don't know. I'm not ready for this.
It is 1996, The First Wives Club.
1996.
It is a film directed by Hugh Wilson. And it stars Diane Keaton, Bette Midler, Goldie Hawn, and Maggie Smith, and then a few other people. As it's set in New York. It's about these three women who were friends when they were in university, have drifted apart in the years since. They're all in their late 40s.
40, yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I think one of them discusses how they've just turned 45.
Yeah.
But then I read on, I think IMDb, that all three actresses celebrated their 50th birthday while filming
together.
it. Yeah. So they're in that kind of late 40s zone. And there was a fourth friend played by Stockard Channing who was also friends with them. And the movie opens, so it's not a spoiler, it opens with her killing herself because her husband has left her for a younger woman, essentially.
Yeah.
And they all receive a letter from her saying that she wishes they could have, stayed closer together and stuff like that. And the three women are Goldie Hawn has become an Oscar-winning actress.
Yeah.
Who is obsessed with remaining beautiful and is scared of, not obsessed with remain beautiful, but feels the need to remain beautiful to continue getting work in Hollywood. Diane Keaton is her husband owns a marketing agency.
Yeah, like advertising? Is it not
Yeah,
advertising?
Yeah, well, marketing is the same as advertising, isn't it?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
So her husband owns a marketing or advertising agency, depending on what you want to say. It's all right. And Bette Midler is married to a man who owns an electronics shop. And similarly to what happened to Stockard Channing, all three women's husbands leave them near the start of the film. Various different reasons, and they all realise that their husbands got successful, partly thanks to them. Like, for example, Bette Midler's husband, all of the stock in his electronics shop when he opened it was provided by her mafia family, and it was all stolen. And I can't remember why Diane Keaton. Anyway, yeah, but all three of them. So they form the First Wives Club, where their task is to basically get one over on all of their husbands. Yeah, that's fair, right? That's a sort of description.
Yeah, that's perfect. You were very thorough.
Good. It's a comedy, and what a good thing for a comedy is being funny, and luckily the First Wives Club is pretty funny. It's very funny. In particular, it's a weird one because Diane Keaton is obviously famous for being one of the best comedic actresses of all time.
Yeah.
Starred in Annie Hall and stuff like that. And one of my big kind of gaps in my knowledge of cinema and culture is Woody Allen. I've never seen a Woody Allen film.
Me neither.
Yeah, and with the knowledge of today, I'm unlikely to ever bother to sit down and watch one.
Me
and obviously,
too.
kind of, Diane Keaton kind of got her name partly from being in or especially her name as a comedic actress, being in like Annie Hall and films like that for Woody Allen.
Yeah.
She was also in The Godfather. Was she? Yeah, she was also in The Godfather and stuff like that. But as a comedic actress, she's known for the Woody Allen movies. And I found her, for the first probably half of the film, I found her character quite irritating. I'd struggled to really I don't know, I didn't like her very much in it. Whereas Bette Midler is incredibly funny from the very start. So I think she's probably my favourite thing in it. She's so funny.
Yeah.
Just like, I mean, it's like the line where she sees Sarah Jessica Parker in the clothes shop and she's like, couldn't you have brought her an entire dress? And then Goldie Hawn is also, she's probably the second best thing in it. She is really, really funny. Really, because the other main thing I've seen her in is Death Becomes Her.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that my main kind of experience with Goldie Hawn has been her playing characters that are obsessed with aging and not being ugly. Where she's very beautiful. She's incredibly beautiful, so she shouldn't have to worry too much about that. I don't know what I'm trying to say with that, but it's an interesting thing that she seemed to be getting cast in those roles a lot in the 90s. I don't quite know why she was sort of, I don't know. Anyway, she's very funny in it as well. So yeah, it's a good film. I liked it. It was funny. I never thought I would ever watch it. My knowledge of it always came from seeing it in Blockbuster all the time as a child, and knowing the cover of the poster, but not having seen the film. But yeah, it's good. It's funny. Maggie Smith's pretty funny in it, pretty good in it. It's got a nice thing at the end where they ultimately use the money they get off their husbands to open a women's centre in New York, which is nice, and it's just kind of quite a nice. It didn't blow me away. It didn't change my life or anything, but it's a funny movie with a nice message at the end.
But yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you watched it. I feel like it's a film that needs to be watched just because of the fun of it.
Yeah, definitely. But I also, it is nice at the like. I feel like the message at the end. I feel like it's got a good message to it. It doesn't go all in on the message. It's not like a big message movie. It's not a drama about like women being abused or anything like that. But it's just nice. It just all wraps itself up quite nicely. And yeah, no, it's a good film.
Yeah.
But although I didn't finish to say that I did warm up to Diane Keaton by the end, but I really did.
Good.
I really did find her irritating for the first 45 minutes or so.
I think that was the point. Because I was like, oh goodness, and then
also, sorry, I keep cutting you off, but you'll be interested in this. The woman who is her therapist, who then her husband leaves her for her. Do you know that actress? Yeah?
Yeah.
She is the woman in The Mist that is the religious lunatic who gets... Yeah. Isn't that crazy? She's a good actress.
That's crazy. Yeah, she's amazing. Oh, I need to watch The Mist again. That's such a good film.
Yeah, it's a brilliant, perfect movie.
Yeah.
Cool.
Should
we move into our top 5?
Oh, no. Can we finish the episode here today?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean... All right, sorry. I thought you just meant you want to pause recording for some reason.
No. It was yeah.
No.
No.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Our top 5.
Top 5. Top 5 90s bands we're going to talk about today.
Yes, indeedy. Before we get into it, what were our rules?
Okay, so I started writing all the stuff that I listened to from the 90s, and then I was like, I cannot make a top 5 out of this. So my rules, I say we have different rules, don't we? We didn't establish the same rules, did we?
We sort of broadly established that.
Yeah. The common rules were, George.
Yeah.
They had to be popular in the 90s.
Yeah.
So, for example, there were some bands that maybe started in the 70s but reached their peak in the 90s. So that was acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And what else?
Well, broadly, we initially started by saying that they had to have released their debut album in the 90s, but then that cut out...
Yeah.
That cut out too many people, so it was... But either their debut album had to be released by 1987, or they just had to be, by some other metric, defendable as a 90s band. Like, for example, Pulp started in like 1978, but they really weren't successful until the 90s when they put out Misshapes and Different Class and stuff. So you can't argue that Pulp aren't a 90s band. It would be ridiculous. So they would count based on that.
Yeah,
if you see what I mean.
Absolutely. So, those were the rules that we established.
Yes.
The rules I established for myself, because if not, I wouldn't be able to cope, were that I put my list today is things that I listened to in the 90s.
Okay. I didn't listen to music in the 90s, so I couldn't do that.
Yeah. But yeah, fun times.
Yeah, fun times. So,
should we start?
Yeah, go. Number 5.
Okay. So my number 5.
Hurry up, come on, let's go. Do it.
Oh, go and eat a peanut, okay? Okay, so my first band, since in the 90s, I was still living in Italy. My first band is an Italian band.
Okay.
My sister and I owned the 3 audio cassettes of this band, and we love them. You're not going to know them because
No,
nobody knows them outside of Italy, but they're amazing. I was listening to them today and they were super fun.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a band formed by a guy called Max Pezzali and a guy called Mauro Repetto, and they're called 883, which means, what do you think it means?
Otto Otto Tre.
Yeah.
3 otters.
No, 883.
Okay.
So yeah, they were fans of motorbikes, especially of Harley Davidson, and the group is called after the 883cc Harley Davidson Sportster, which
Cool.
is fun. Yeah, and so they got famous with this song called "They Killed Hanno ucciso l'uomo ragno," which is called "They Have Killed Spider-Man."
Okay.
Yeah, and I was obsessed with this band, and my sister and I just listened to them constantly, and they were amazing, and I think it's the only thing that I can relate to me and other people in Italy now. So, like, that every Italian person that grew up in the 90s knows this band and knows all the songs. And today I was listening to them and I remembered the song. I haven't listened to them, like, I can tell you, probably in 20 years. And today I was just like singing these songs, and they were fun and they were silly. And that's why I put them in. And yeah, 883.
883.
And for anybody that's listening, listen to them because they're so 90s. And all their work is on Spotify. So if anybody is interested, it might be your homework. You never know.
We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely know your response after you listen to this, but I had to put him in because I thought, yeah, 90s. Booyah. 883.
No, that's fair. I've never ever. Well, obviously, I've never heard of them, so it's an
No.
interesting one for everyone. Will be new
Yeah.
to them.
What also, I was thinking, should I put them in? Because nobody will know apart from my sister who listens. And I thought, well, yeah, might be something new that people listen to.
Yeah, no, it's good to get new things and not just things that everyone
Yeah.
knows, which is what my list is.
Yeah. Cool. Number 5, 883. What's your number 5, G?
Oh, my number 5, Alex, is a band who were, I think, one of the first bands that I declared to be my favourite band.
Ooh.
Yeah, they're still going today. They put out their first album in the 90s, and it was notable because the lead singer performed every instrument on that album and didn't actually get a band together until the second album.
Ooh.
Yeah, and people might know at this point that I'm talking about the band
Yeah.
Foo Fighters. Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl's epic rock group that have rocked us solidly since the 90s all the way up now until 2021, because I think by the time people hear this, their new album will be out. It's called Medicine at Midnight. So they really are still going strong.
They're awesome.
What to say about the Foo Fighters? The first Foo Fighters album I ever listened to was Echoes, Silence, Patience and Grace, which is the one that the Pretender was the big single off. Yeah. What if I say I'm not like the others? What if... Such an incredible... Like, I remember hearing that song and being like, this is music. What a stupid thing to say. And yeah, they're just great. I mean, Dave Grohl is famously the nicest man in rock music. He's always delightful whenever you see him being interviewed. He just comes across like just a lovely guy. And they just write catchy, fun, hooky rock music. And recently, I think when they were coming around to saying they were going to put out a new album again, I listened to them a lot late last year. And I love all of it, from the newest stuff that people are a bit down on, all the way back to the first album, Foo Fighters, which is really scrappy and kind of garagey. It's all solid stuff. No, I love them. They're well known, but if you've never listened to Foo Fighters and you like rock music, then I don't know, you just woke up from a long sleep, but you should listen to them.
Yeah, no, they're great. Like, Yeah, I didn't. I love Foo Fighters, but I didn't start listening to them until much later.
Mm.
I think the first song I've ever heard of them was "Learn to Fly,"
Oh yeah,
which was in their second or third album.
third album. I think it's on there. Is Nothing Left to
Yeah,
Lose.
yeah, it was like a really big hit initially, but I didn't really get into them until later, so I couldn't put them in. Yeah, because my first list was like, probably the same as yours, and I thought, nah, I'm gonna leave those people for another time.
Okay. What time is that?
Like top 5 rock bands,
Okay, cool.
top 5 Foo Fighters songs.
Oh, what a good episode that'll be. So yeah,
Good
no,
episode.
that's my number 5, the Foo Fighters, or just Foo Fighters, I think they prefer to be known.
Yeah,
They're lovely
we
and
saw them
wonderful.
together.
We did see them together. That was one of the best gigs I've ever seen ever. When
Yeah,
he had a broken
yeah,
leg,
yeah.
and I was like about
was-
6 feet away from him, and they performed Times Like These at the inauguration event and dedicated it to teachers, which was a nice touch.
Oh,
American teachers, but I think teachers all across the world can share in the
yeah,
in the love. So yeah,
yeah.
all good stuff.
Because we're not having the greatest time. Thank you, Dave Grohl.
Yes, times like these are tough. So, how about number
Cool.
4?
Number 4. This number 4 is another band that I listen to it a lot, and I listened to it a lot this week as well. And I found out about them in one of my trips to England in the summer
Mm.
from a Smash Hits magazine. When people still bought magazines.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is a band from Australia called Savage Garden.
Okay.
Yes. I
Savage
think I actually
Garden.
owned the CDs of Savage Garden, but I owned both CDs of. They only released 2 CDs, and I owned both CDs. And they were scratched by the end because I listened to them so much. Do you know them?
Did they do that song about being a butterfly, or is that somebody else?
I think I don't know. They did To the Moon and Back.
Oh no, I
will
don't know
fly
them.
you
I
to
don't know
the
them.
moon and back if you be.
No, I'm thinking of a different band. I'm thinking of like a kind of bad new metal-y type band.
Oh no. These are like pop.
Okay.
Like this is stuff that I listened to when I was like 14.
No, I don't know.
Nine.
I do not know. I've heard the name Savage Garden, but I don't know them at all.
But yeah, so they're like a pop. Is it like pop music? Very catchy. They kind of had some kind of 80s vibes to them, kind of like a little bit like Tears for Fears. In fact, they're only a duo. Really, really good and fun. Most of their songs about kind of love and love. And and that's it really about them. They were really really good to listen to, easy to listen to. I like them still. Like like 883, I hadn't listened to them in a while, and I thought they were really good. And yeah, what else can I say about them? That's it, really.
No,
Maybe
that's...
you know Truly Madly Deeply. I'll be your dream, I'll be your wish, I'll be your fantasy.
No.
I'll be your hope up. No? Okay.
No.
But yeah,
I'll
and
be
that's
your
it.
butterfly, sugar
I'll
baby.
be a butterfly. But I think they were really popular in the UK, and that's how I know them, just from the UK. I don't know if they were so popular in Italy, but they're from down under.
Nice.
Savage Garden.
Sauvage, La Belle Sauvage Garden.
La Belle Sauvage Garden.
I like it. Nice.
Yeah.
So, my number
Yes,
4
go.
is
Yeah.
an iconic band from the 90s, released their first album in
Mm.
1991. They helped form a new genre of music called grunge. Grunge in the 90s. I think they're from Seattle, right? Yeah, they are Seattle's own Pearl Jam.
Pearl Jam.
Pearl Jam. I
Nice.
love Pearl Jam quite a bit.
Mm.
They are it's mainly, unlike the Foo Fighters, the later Pearl Jam stuff doesn't quite do it as much for me, although Backspacer is a very good album from 2009. But definitely like that first run of albums, especially their first album 10 and their second album VS. In fact, 10 is a really popular one, but I prefer Versus. Like that's one of my favourite albums is Versus by Pearl Jam. It's got songs like Daughter and it's got a song called Elderly Woman Behind the Counter in a Small Town or something like that on it, which is a great song. Yeah, it's great. And they're just really, I think the thing with Pearl Jam ultimately is that this lead singer, Eddie Vedder, has one of the best voices that has ever graced music. It is truly a thing to behold. It is so beautiful and gorgeous. And unlike Foo Fighters, they're one of those bands that I love that's on that list of bands I've never seen live. And I really hope I can change that at some point. But yeah, what kind of experience do you have with Pearl Jam?
Pearl Jam was really big in Italy.
I can see that.
I've listened to it at friend's house, but it was kind of not. I didn't have good experiences with them, with the people that listened to them in Italy.
I could kind of that was a bit like
yeah, and I feel like if you listen to Pearl Jam, you couldn't really be the person that I was.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And so I just associated Pearl Jam with those kind of people. And although I listened to them, and I completely agree. Is it Ed Vedder?
Eddie Vedder.
Eddie Vedder has got a great voice. I have never listened to an album, and I might do actually because I'm an adult now, and I can listen to whatever I want without having the T-shirt or being,
Yeah, no, I definitely had a and they're not on my list because I don't like them quite as much as Pearl Jam. But like my opinion of Nirvana when I was in school was tainted by the fact that the people in my class that listened to Nirvana were the worst people. I didn't like them at all.
Yeah.
So I never really, and I do like Nirvana now, but like I think that your experience with Pearl Jam was more similar to my experience with Nirvana, of being like, that guy has a Nirvana shirt on all the time and I don't like him.
Yeah.
Whereas Pearl Jam, I don't think they were really popular in my kind of age group until so I discovered them kind of on my own a bit when I got older. But yeah, they're cool. And you can watch on YouTube a video, I think it's from the 90s, of them performing at a festival somewhere. And Eddie Vedder, massive festival stages have got this huge rigging that goes all the way to the top and along and stuff. Eddie Vedder, with a microphone that's on a cable, climbs this entire scaffolding all the way to the top, then clambers across it to the middle of the stage, and then like hangs off it by his legs and carries on singing the song into the microphone, hanging upside down like 20 feet up in the air. I don't think he does that anymore, but it's an incredible video to watch if you find that. I might try and link to that in the show notes as well. Because they were a pretty cool band. So yeah, Pearl Jam, that's my number 4.
Okay, my number 3 is a band that you will know.
Oh,
it changed the course of history. It's formed by 5 incredible women.
ooh,
and it was formed in 1994, and they're formed by, what are their names?
Are we talking
Melanie
about Posh?
C,
Yeah, okay.
Victoria Beckham, Jerry Halliwell, Beckham, Melanie B, and Member Bunton. Do you know the band I'm talking about?
You're talking about S Club 7, aren't you?
Yeah, S Club.
Sorry, that was mean.
I'm talking about
The Spice Girls.
The Spice Girls. They changed my life.
Yeah.
The Spice Girls. Another trip in the summer to England, and this song "Wannabe" was everywhere, and it hadn't arrived in Italy, and I was like, what is this? The video was on TV. I was mesmerized. I was in love, and it was amazing. The Spice Girls. The Spice Girls are a British girl band, formed in 1994. Had 5 amazing women. There was Mel B, who was Scary Spice. Mel C, who's Sporty Spice. Emma Bunton, Baby Spice. Jerry Halliwell, Ginger Spice, and Victoria Beckham, which is Posh Spice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they had really amazing songs. They were different from anything that I had ever seen before. I fell in love the moment I saw them. Like I remember when was the first when was Wannabe released? So 1996. So I was 11.
Mm.
Yes. And this single came out and I thought it was amazing. And that was just like, wow. Bought the CD. I had both because they released two CDs of when I liked them. Which because I didn't really so when they were 5, they released two CDs, Spice in 1996 and Spice World in 1997. But then Jerry Halliwell left, and then they released another another album in 2000. But I wasn't interested in then. I started listening to Korn by then, but they were formed by auditioning, a bit like X Factor, but not televised. And because they were trying to find a band that would be a competition, or like a female competition to take that. And he's 17, and they managed, and they became they became a incredible sensation, and they'll always be remembered in history, Spice Girls. And I love them. I love their songs. I watch their films. I love them, and I still love them. Like I still sometimes listen to them, and I think they're incredible. Did you ever, when in the 90s, did you ever like listen to them or hear them? Well, they were everywhere. In England.
So no, absolutely not. I did not listen to them by choice, but they were so inescapably popular in the 90s.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. They were literally, I couldn't stop hearing them. I remember being I didn't like music very much. So I didn't really, I found them quite irritating, I think, at the time. I don't find them irritating today, obviously, but at the time I remember being like, can we just stop talking about wanting to be lovers and ziggas and stuff and get back to Super Mario and Sonic the Hedgehog, please? But but they are iconic. They are history making band. Like they're still some of the records they set in terms of single sales and stuff like that, I think, are still held today, or until recently at least. And they are ridiculously successful. And when they reformed a couple of years ago and did a tour, they were playing football stadiums and things, and they still had thousands and thousands of people going to see them. They are a big deal. And rightfully so, because they are good tunes. So my number 3 is pretty similar to your number 3, actually.
Ooh.
Yeah, pretty much the same. It's the progressive metal group Tool.
Wow, exactly the same.
Exactly like the Spice Girls.
Which one is the sporty one? And which one is the scary one?
The singer is the scary one. And I think the sporty one is probably the drummer, because a lot of work to do in that band if you're on drums.
Nice.
Yeah, so Tool are a group from America. They are sort of progressive metal group, which really should be the first reason that I don't listen to them, because I don't really listen to much prog rock kind of stuff, like Yes and King Crimson and all that stuff. But Tool are one of those bands where when I first started listening to music and doing my own explorations and going to FOP and buying CDs and stuff, they had just put out the album 10,000 Days in 2006. And I bought that album and I listened to it and I really liked it. And I think I listened to them just after they headlined the Download Festival in 2006. And I listened to that album, 10,000 Days, and I was like, I like this band. They're really good. I'm going to listen to them a lot. And then I started going to gigs, and I was always like, I'm looking forward to seeing Tool when they come back. Do you know when they release their next album after that?
When?
2019.
What?
Yeah. So
what? They released only 2 albums?
No, because they released albums in the 90s, obviously. That's why I...
okay.
Yeah, but
sorry.
what I'm saying is I got into them in 2006 and liked them quite a lot, and was like, they're going to be a band that I like, and they'll release new songs, and I'll follow them. And then they just did nothing for about 13 years.
Wow.
Yeah. But then they came back in 2019 with a new album called Fear Inoculum, and they headlined Download Festival again. They played in the UK, headlining Download, and then they didn't play in the UK. They played in America quite a bit, but they didn't perform in the UK again until they headlined Download again about 13 years later. And I finally got to see them live, and it was worth it completely. I adored it. They're quite controversial live because they don't let them film them and put the video of them on the big screens, like you normally get at a festival.
Oh, okay.
They just play basically the music videos for the songs on the screens. So if you want to actually, I know it's a bit, this is the thing, this is exactly the thing. So if you actually want to see them performing, you have to get quite near the front. So I've seen people complaining who were at that Download who were near the back and just were like, why am I just watching a bunch of music videos? Which is totally fair, but I was at the front and it was amazing. It was so good.
That's really selfish though, because I'm really little and I don't like being at the front because I know that I'm going to get squished.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. Nobody's going to see me and they're going to trample on my face.
Yeah.
So, I usually stay at the back on the side so I can, escape easily.
Yeah.
And, how are they going to... I survive on those screens. Those are my things for gigs.
Yeah.
That's really mean.
Yeah.
For little people.
Sure.
They're...
But I'm not a little person. I don't care. I loved it. So...
I know. Yeah, you're one of those people that's in front of me who puts their elbows in my face.
In addition to them not putting out an album between 2006 and 2019, what also happened in those years was that streaming became a thing and Spotify came out and music went on Spotify. Tool were basically the last band to put their music on Spotify. They didn't put any music on Spotify or any streaming services until 2019 for various frustrating reasons. So they genuinely had this thing where I liked them, but I just never listened to them because it got to a point where I didn't sit and listen to a CD. I would put on music from my phone, and I was never able to really play Tool properly. So then last year when they put all of their stuff up on Spotify, I listened to it properly for the first time, and I massively fell in love with it. From their first album Undertow, which is a bit more straightforward metal. There's a great song in there called Sober, all the way through to their most recent album Fear Inoculum, which is only I think it's 6 actual songs on it, and they're each 10 minutes long kind of thing. Yeah, I love Tool. I think that Maynard James Keenan, who sings for them, has one of the best voices in rock music, which I think is why I got into them, because I wouldn't normally get into bands with really long songs and all this kind of quite aggressive kind of stuff behind the scenes. But just hearing his voice in combination with some of the kind of mad music that they put behind it, I just adore it. I really, really, really love Tool quite a lot. And yeah, they're great. Have you ever listened to them at all?
No. Never. No.
Fair enough.
I don't know if they were popular here. Oh, I think I've heard them from you. I think that's the first time. It's not they've never been on my radar.
Your friend Rowan likes them a lot.
That's where I heard him from.
Yeah, probably.
Rowan. Yeah. So, yeah, no, not really a big... I never heard of at all.
Interesting. They're it's a lot of time...
Did you say my friend or our friend?
Well, our friend Rowan, obviously. Sorry, Rowan.
Yeah, come on.
But
now
I mean,
our friend.
You would have... When he would have told you about Tool, he would have been just your friend, I imagine, is why I said that, if you see what I mean.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's a lot of stuff that people who are very musical will appreciate, because it's time signatures change. They have a song where the time signature changes in the song in line with the Fibonacci sequence. They've got a lot of people who enjoy going to other states of consciousness and things like that really like them, which is totally not my scene at all. Again, I shouldn't really be the kind of audience for Tool, but I just, for some reason, I am. I love them.
Okay.
So yeah.
Interesting.
What's your number 2?
My number 2 is my second mega pop group. I don't know, maybe my third or maybe my fourth. No, whatever. I think, I'm just going to carry on.
Yeah.
My number 2 is I had to put him in. I don't listen to them anymore, but I was obsessed with them in the 90s, pretty much until 1999.
Right.
Let me just check a second. No, this is Incubus.
Oh, they're good.
They're so good. but I didn't start listening to them until after the 90s. So I pretty much listened to, I had all their albums until 1999, and then I was like, nah, this is it. But if you saw my room in the 90s, they had pictures, like my side of the bedroom was just posters of them, which I thought, well, I have to put them in, and they were incredible. And I was a kid and I loved them. And it's a boy band, and it is not Take That though, and they're the Backstreet Boys.
Okay.
I well, George, when I tell you that I was obsessed with them, I was obsessed with them.
Right.
Like I had everything about them. Like I was a proper fangirl, which is embarrassing because after that, I've never been a fangirl at all.
They're pretty good.
But I
like,
had.
Backstreet back.
They were amazing.
Backstreet's back. All right. Right.
All right.
That's a brilliant song. Like, I don't know. I'll hold it up for the Backstreet Boys. I think they're pretty good.
Yeah. I'm not saying that I'm not happy about me putting them on my list. It's the fact, the obsession I had with them. Their obsession. Like, because it was so popular, there used to be like competitions to like have something signed, and I would enter the competitions. I told you my room was full of their posters. I had all their albums. I had video cassettes of their concerts. Crazy. Yeah, about like you and the Idols now. And I once watched it was just embarrassing. Like it's embarrassing now because I was a total fangirl, and I loved them, and I think they were great, and they had good music, and their songs were fun, and they were amazing.
Name every single member right now.
Okay, Nick, Howie, AJ, Brian, and Kevin.
Okay, you can keep your badge.
Brian and Kevin were cousins, and Kevin was the oldest one with the raspy voice. And I was in love with Nick Carter. One day we were going to get married. We never did.
Did they have a sort of rivalry with NSYNC, or was that too late?
In my school, you either liked NSYNC or you liked Backstreet Boys.
Right.
When Backstreet Boys were really big, I was in middle school.
Yeah.
And I remember going first year of middle school, and this girl was like, I love NSYNC. And I was like, this suck. I love Backstreet Boys. I didn't even know NSYNC at the time. I didn't even care, because Backstreet Boys was my, for 2 or 3 years, they were my thing.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing of the band is they were much bigger in Europe than they were in America, because they were in Germany. The first place they were really big was Germany, and then they got to Italy, and then the rest of the world. But they were huge in Europe, and they kind of fed to some European music thing. And I feel like also the 90s boy band, I think you cannot really have it anymore, because I don't know, I feel like maybe we took them more seriously than what boy bands are taken now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think was One Direction the last really big boy band.
Yeah. But also I feel like they're kind of embarrassed of being in a boy band, while I feel like Backstreet Boys were like owned being in a boy band.
Yeah, maybe.
We are the boy band. And I feel One Direction, they tried really hard at one point to kind of completely take that boy band feel out of them. But I feel like Backstreet Boys were the boy band, and they're still a boy band. They're still going.
Are they?
I haven't listened to them,
Good
but
Lord.
apparently they're still going.
Wow.
Since 1993, they've been active since 1993, since present. They have a few albums. So I had 3 albums: Backstreet Boys, Backstreet's Back, and Millennium. And then they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They released an album 2 years ago.
Wow.
Crazy.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And I feel like that's pretty cool, because they did kind of have a hiatus. They kind of like broke up for a little bit, and one of them was an alcoholic. Still, I don't know if he still is. But I just love them. And Backstreet's Back rocked my world. It's a bit like Wannabe. When I saw that video, which was amazing, because in the 90s, my TV was MTV. I loved MTV, and that was where I got all my music, a lot of my music, inspiration. And when MTV used to be good, because there wasn't stuff like reality TV, which now is all MTV is. But in the 90s, MTV, at least in Italy, was all about music. And when I watched Backstreet's Back, oh my goodness. Do you know the video? They're all in a haunted house.
It's like the haunted house. Yeah, no, it's a brilliant video.
Yeah, and it's like a 7-minute video.
Yeah.
I've shown my kids now in 2020, and they think it's amazing, and they love the song.
It's a brilliant song. It's a really good video.
It's a brilliant song, and I was like, if I'm gonna go down this route where I'm gonna put stuff that I listened to in the 90s, Backstreet Boys have to be there.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, Backstreet's back. All right.
Doom, 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 doom.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. So, that's my number 2, Backstreet Boys. Why did I not put the? Because I want to say the Backstreet Boys, but it's just Backstreet Boys. I want to say the Fugees, but it's just Fugees. I want to say the Foo Fighters. Why is it the?
I don't know. Maybe there's like they're only allowed so many there's, and all other bands have taken them all. It's probably that. Like the Smashing Pumpkins. Is it just Smashing Pumpkins?
I don't know, actually.
There is a band called The, so maybe they've got the extra there's.
Maybe they are the Smashing Pumpkins. Yeah. I know. Well, all the bands that I've seen on Wikipedia, they can be the Smashing Pumpkins or Smashing Pumpkins. So they're Backstreet Boys or the Backstreet Boys. So it depends on who you are.
Okay. So
yes, sorry. Number 2.
What's
your number 2?
My number 2 is The Eternal Burning Flame. I adore it, but I hate it. And every time I touch it, it burns and upsets me.
What?
My number 2 is the pop rock group Weezer. Weezer.
Of course.
I hate Weezer so much, but I love them.
Why do you hate them?
Because they
You don't
just
have to hate them.
they put out so much.
They've released only one good album, but yeah,
that's not
right.
That is not true. But they put out. They're just so ridiculous. Like they put out. Like a few years ago, like Weezer. I mean, Weezer are big because of the 90s because they released the Blue album, which has the song Buddy Holly on it, which is like, everybody knows Buddy Holly. Ooh, you, I look just like Buddy Holly. And your merits all the more. I don't. Anyway, great song. And then they did Pinkerton, which was like kind of like where he went really self-reflective with his lyrics. And kind of started emo. Like emo is kind of because of Pinkerton, like in a way. And definitely is one of the defining like things that sort of came before emo. But that album did incredibly badly. So they disappeared for the rest of the 90s and then came back in the early noughties with the Green album, which is when Rivers Cuomo, the singer from Weezer, had decided to, instead of ever bearing his own soul on record again, because it must have been horrible for him. He made this album Weezer with Buddy Holly on it, where all the songs are just kind of pop songs. They're not about him specifically, but everybody loves it. So then he's like, for the follow-up, I'll write music about myself and how I feel about the world and my own feelings and struggles. And everyone hated it. So he must have been like, right, people just like the music I can write, but they don't like me. So I'll never do that again. So then the Green album comes out.
I love that album.
I know, so do I. And
is
like,
so good.
people tell him all the time now that they love that album, but he just doesn't seem to have got the. Anyway, the Green album was where he had come up with like a formula for how to write a pop song, and every song on the album follows this formula exactly. And in so much as I think it's that every song on it has a guitar solo that copies the melody from the chorus or something like it's totally like factory produced music, and it's not a Weezer album I ever listened to. But ever since then, they've kind of veered between him threatening to do personal music again and then writing pop music. And they did an album a few years ago called Everything Will Be Alright in the End, where the lead single is called Back to the Shack, and the lyrics are like, maybe we should go back to the shack, back to the Strat with the lightning strap, which is like his iconic guitar. Maybe I should, maybe Pat should play guitar and I should, Pat should play the drums and I should play guitar. Like, they did this album that was basically like, sorry for being kind of poppy for years and stuff. We're going to go back, and this album's amazing and really crunchy and rocky. And then they followed it up immediately with like another ridiculous pop album, and it's like, what are you doing? Like, you keep giving fans what you want, and then you take it away from them again. And just to be a Weezer fan is just this cycle of self-loathing and despair. But also, I realised today when I was thinking about how to do my list and who to put on my list, that I have very strong opinions on the bonus tracks from their Red album. And if you have strong opinions on the bonus tracks from an album that nobody else has heard of, then they're probably one of your favourite bands.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, Miss Sweeney and Pig and King should be on the album, and why aren't they on the album? Why are they only bonus tracks? And it's like, right, well, if that's my opinion, if I know enough about them to think that, to have that thought in my mind, then, you know, obviously they're one of my favourite bands. By the time this album comes out, they'll have put out a new album called OK Human, which is one of their only albums. Like, it doesn't have, this album is out next week from when we're recording, but it's not going to have any electric guitar on it. It's all kind of piano and string based. The strings were recorded at Abbey Road Studios. It's based on like Harry Nilsson albums in the 60s and 70s, sort of soft pop rock stuff. They've already put out one single from it called All My Favourite Songs. And for me, they're back in the good side because I really like that single, and I'm really intrigued to hear what this album is going to sound like, because it's going to be quite different from anything they've done before, it seems. But then in May, they're putting out an album called Van Weezer, and if OK Human is obviously a kind of OK Computer Radiohead reference, although the album's more about being not computery and sort of analog, Van Weezer is a total Van Halen reference, and that album is going to be full of guitar solos and 80s style rock. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I can't deny that I adore them, and you know, their two best albums pretty much were both released in the 90s, because the Blue album is brilliant, and then Pinkerton is obviously their best album. So yeah, that's Weezer. You've listened to a bit of Weezer.
Yes. Yeah. I love Pinkerton. And I really like the album of covers they did, which I can't remember the name.
It's the Teal album.
The Teal album. I thought that was really good because I think we spoke about it before, and when you told me that they did an album of covers, I was just like, oh God, stop doing things. But then it was amazing. I loved their covers. I did not enjoy. Well, I don't know, the new song they released from the album that's going to come out, OK Human. What's the song called? All my favorite songs.
All my favorite songs.
Yeah, I felt like I told you via text, but I felt like it doesn't match their ages. Like, I feel like they're not aging well. Like, they're aging and they're in their 50s and they're writing songs that feel a little bit childish. I felt like maybe in Pinkerton he was more mature. It felt more mature than this, and yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, if you want to be ageist about it, then that's fine.
No, it's not. I don't want to be ageist. I feel it's just the thing. I feel it could do better if you can make an album like Pinkerton. I feel like you can make a better choices.
Yeah, well, welcome to being a
Weezer
fan if you want them to do stuff like Pinkerton again, because it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
But for my money, I don't know. I they're always going to do lyrics the way they do them in this and stuff like that. They're always just going to sound like that. And there are bands like The National that grow old gracefully and sing about mature themes, and then there's Weezer, who are always going to sing about being alone in the corner at a party, whether you're 20 or 50. And I don't know, like you say, they're not as mature lyrics, but I like the lyrics in that song because I kind of feel the feelings that he describes in the song, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So, and
I guess so.
I'm not as young as Pinkerton either, but that's
no, but I don't know. I just felt like I was kind of enjoying the song, and then I saw him sing it, and I was like, oh no, I don't know why my brain just went no, just just be more mature, man. But maybe it's just
I don't
maybe I need to just.
think people should be
I don't
free
know.
to just do what they want, though. I don't really.
Oh,
like-
absolutely, absolutely. I don't know what it is because I feel like I never had a reaction that way with a song.
Yeah.
Like I never. It was the first time that I was just like listening to a song, and it's kind of maybe because it's quite a simple song and it's not like that memorable. Like I don't even remember how it goes now. Um, but I don't know. It just panned to him, and I was like, oh. It just felt like it didn't match the person. That's the only thing that I had. I felt not that you can sing whatever you want at whatever age. I felt like the song didn't match the person and the band. I felt like Train. Do you know the band the duo I think is a Train?
Who did
Baby, didn't across the sun.
Yeah, I do. I think I know Train.
Yeah, and like I feel like that song doesn't match the guys.
Yeah.
And maybe I've had it before with Train. I just thought about Train because it's like they're, I don't know. I'm like, oh, don't sing, just sing something different. And it had the same reaction with Weezer. I don't know why. But me, I'll listen to it again, and I'm always open to enjoy them because I love Pinkerton so much. I remember when I listened to Pinkerton, I listened to about like 100 times in a week because I loved it, and I loved the song about Japan. Oh my goodness. What does it say?
You mean Across the Sea?
You na 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 na. I write this song. What did it say?
You wrote your
write
letter,
me
I wrote my song.
letter.
You wrote me a letter, I
Yeah.
wrote you a
Oh,
song.
I just love that. Oh, I just love that song.
Yeah.
Even if people think it's creepy.
Yeah,
you
people
know.
do think it's creepy. It is a bit creepy, but
How old was he when he wrote it?
he'd have been in his early 20s,
Yeah. And who's he writing to? Was it
like a middle school Japanese student.
Yeah, maybe a little bit creepy.
Yeah, it's
Let's move on.
creepy. I'm not going to defend it.
Well, I don't know. Like, it depends. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's a beautiful song.
But
It's
also
a beautiful song and a beautiful album that
beautiful
is
song.
full of complex emotions that aren't easily quantified as being, appropriate or inappropriate or whatever. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
He's a good. He's a complex figure. Is Rivers Cuomo.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool. Moving on. My number one,
your number one
from
favourite
the
90s band.
90s bands. So my number one 90s bands is a girl group from Atlanta. And it's called TLC.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So TLC is a band that was formed in the 1990s. They changed a little bit. They formed with different members, but the last members were. I love their names. When I started listening to them, I really love their names. Rosonda Chill Thomas, Tian Tebow's Watkins, and Lisa Left Eye Lopez. So the first song I listened of them was Waterfalls, and I loved the video on MTV, and I was mesmerized by them because they looked a little bit different and how they dressed, and there wasn't like the girl power of like dressing up, but it was more like being a little bit cooler. They were cool, and I really enjoyed that about them, and then my journey with them was through MTV, listening to them because I couldn't find the album. Like I never thought about buying the album here, and I listened to the albums later. But I remember being obsessed with them on MTV and trying to listen to them as much as possible. And then I didn't buy the first two albums, but I had the third album, which was Fan Mail, which was released in 1999. And then after I listened to like Crazy Sexy Cool, where Waterfall was in. But yeah, they were incredible. They were fun. Yeah, it was like R&B, so it was different style to what I was listening to. But although I listened to it, it was mainly male in Italy. Like there was a lot of like R. Kelly and Boys to Men. And when I saw Waterfall, I was like, wow, these girls are amazing. And so I just fell in love with them. And then when No Scrubs came out, which is it No Scrubs? Yeah, No Scrubs came out. Have you heard of it?
Well, my
I don't
experience
want no
of TLC is entirely Weezer based.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Because they did the I forgot they did the cover. One of them, unfortunately, Lisa Left Eye Lopez, died, and that's the other thing that kind of when she died in 2002, I was like really upset because I never had, well, apart from being in the knowledge that Freddie Mercury had died, and well, when I knew about Freddie Mercury, he was already dead.
Yeah.
And being devastated about that. Like when she died, it was like I think one of the first time that was like, oh my god, like somebody that like I looked up to died, and she died in a car accident in Honduras, which was crazy. And I heard it on the radio, which was insane. It was like what, and yeah, and so I really liked them, and I really thought they were incredible and kind of like also game changers, really. For me, not in general, because I'm sure there have been like groups that uh did things, but I feel like they also were bigger than other groups and had more input, even though they had like not that many albums. But I love them. I still love them. I think they're still incredible. And after Lisa Lopez died, then they released another album called 3D, and they kind of added her after, which was really lovely. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah. I've literally only listened to the song that Weezer covered.
Yeah.
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 It's a
I
good
think
song.
like yeah, it is a really good song, No Scrubs. That's from their second album. But I think their first album, Crazy Sexy Cool, is really, really good.
Scrub is a guy who
I think
can't
it's
get
better.
no love from me. Anyway, nice. Good choice. Strong.
Thank you.
TLC. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So my number one band are a band that I took me a while to get into. The first time I listened to this band, I thought they were awful and I hated them. And I had to listen to their album about 3 or 4 times before I started to get it. And then they very quickly became my favourite band for a long time. They are the godfathers of being a sad white man, Radiohead.
What?
I don't know.
Yeah, good choice.
Thanks.
Good choice.
Radiohead. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like at this point you either know them and you love them, or you know that you don't like them.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as Radiohead go, you know, in the 90s they were kind of lumped in with Britpop and stuff. And then they started to differentiate themselves more with OK Computer, where they brought in, you know, like more unusual song structures and songwriting ideas. And then they just threw everything into a big bin and made Kid A, which is remains earning a singular vision of perfection, but nothing like it had happened before or since, really. And then they followed it up with Amnesiac. They went back towards rock with Hail to the Thief. Then they kind of started the whole change in the music industry of like, why do we do albums? Why do we just release albums on CD and have people pay £10 for them with In Rainbows that they put out for free on the internet, which kind of, you know, Beyonce has since done that, and you know they kind of started that trend of releasing albums slightly differently and maybe not having the focus be on the product but more on the kind of way it's put out. And then, you know, since then they've done stuff like The King of Limbs and most recently A Moon-Shaped Pool, and I got into them, I think in Rainbows actually was when I got into them. I had already bought OK Computer and hated it.
Wow.
And then In Rainbows came out and I downloaded it for free because it was free. If you could pay what you want. And then I listened to it and thought it was okay, and then I went back to OK Computer and didn't like it still, and I kind of bounced between the two before I finally like settled on adoring it. And I still do. And I think they weren't in my top 5 bands list. I think the only reason is I've listened to them so much over the years that it's not. I can't quite listen to them and love them as much now as I did when I first heard them, if you see what I mean, or when I first got into them.
Yeah.
But I do. I finally saw them live for the first time in like 2017, I think it was. And it was a transcendent experience, and I love them. I love them. I love Tom York's voice. I love the sounds that Johnny Greenwood makes with his guitar. I love Phil Selway's drumming, and I just
they're great.
I love all of it. I love everything they do.
They're amazing.
Yeah, They're a perfect band. They're a gorgeous,
They
wonderful
are perfect.
group
Yeah.
of perfection. And I think the only thing that frustrates me about them is that they go so quiet between album releases. Like we've not heard anything from them for a couple of years now, and I'm just like, I want more Radiohead, please. Can we have a bit more Radiohead?
Yeah.
And they all go off and do like they're like Ed O'Brien, I think the
Yeah, he just released an album.
yeah, he put out an album, and Tom York put out an album a couple of years ago and stuff. And they,
Yeah.
but I think that's why they've been able to last so long. Is because they allow each other to go off and do their own things and things like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, they're a good group of lads from Oxford.
Yeah, no, they're awesome. I love Radiohead.
Probably not working class
Well,
enough
I
for
got
Sleaford
into-
mods, but who cares?
Oh my goodness, Sleaford mods. No, I got into Radiohead like in probably in 1999. I know exactly when I got into Radiohead is when I started high school,
Yeah,
and people were not listening to Spice Girls. People were not listening to Backstreet Boys. They were already listening to like proper, like what they consider proper music, and so then I made the shift,
that's fair.
natural shift.
The natural shift from Spice Girls to Radiohead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, it was a complete and utter boom done. And the posters are off. Stop. Yeah.
Goodbye, Nick.
Yeah.
Hello, Tom.
Tom, you sexy beast.
Tom. You beautiful man.
Oh, a nice list, man.
Thank you very much. So, do you want to run down your top 5?
Yes, top 5. Number 5, 883 or 883, Italian band. Number 4, Savage Garden. Number 3, Spice Girls. Number 2, Backstreet Boys. And number 1, TLC.
Nice. My top 5 was number 5, Foo Fighters. Number 4, Pearl Jam. Number 3, Tool. Number 2, Weezer. And number 1, Radiohead. Thank you very much.
Beautiful.
Cheers. What do you have any honourable mentions, Alex?
Yeah, my honorable mentions are not as strict as my unhonorable mentions. I did not follow as much my rule because it's much easier and I don't have to choose 5. So in my honorable mention, I put the Cranberries
Nice.
from Ireland. Incredible band. They were nearly on my top 5 because I was really obsessed with them. But I've never actually listened to albums of theirs. I just listened to songs because they were huge in Italy in the 90s.
Interesting.
The Cardigans, which were a Swedish band. I think most famous song was probably Erase and Rewind. Fugees, we talked about it before. Blur, amazing band,
Nice.
but I really got into them in the 2000s. Oasis, are they a 90s band?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, of course. Radiohead, Take That, All Saints were the bomb. Destiny's Child, Smashing Pumpkins, Limp Bizkit. Would they be like a 2000s band or a 90s?
They
band?
started in the late 90s, but I
Okay.
was kind of saving them for noughties, but we can mention them.
Yeah. No, let's put them in noughties. And Korn?
Well, Korn kind of started new metal, and they came like their first album came out surprisingly early, like 94 or something. So
Yeah,
really,
exactly.
you can call Korn a 90s band for sure. Like I think their big stuff came out in the 90s.
Yeah, but I got into Korn when I was about, probably 15, 16. Yeah. Rage Against the Machine. Would that be 90s?
Definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So Rage Against the Machine, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Foo Fighters, The Prodigy, Incubus, Teenage Fan Club, and that's it.
Nice. I've never listened to Teenage Fan Club at all. Are they good?
Oh my goodness, you need to listen to. They nearly made my top 5. I love them, but I listened to them later, so I didn't put them.
Fair dues.
They're amazing.
So my honorable mentions. First of all, I've got a short list of bands I really wanted to put in my top 5, but just couldn't fit them in, and they were Rammstein, who I love.
Ooh, yeah.
Oasis, who I'm from Manchester,
Yeah.
and I really feel like I should have been having them in my top 5, but they just didn't quite fit. But yeah, Oasis, Blink-182, who I love, and
But that's the thing. I want to put Blink-182 in the noughties because the first, it's like 1999, isn't it?
possibly, yeah. Which I think
'Cause
again
I
is
was
why
gonna
I
put
didn't put them in my list, because they feel a bit more
Yeah.
noughties.
Because I love Blink-182.
Yeah, they're good. When was their first album? No, see, they released 3 albums in the 90s.
Really?
Yeah, Cheshire Cat, Dude Ranch, and Enema of the State. So, The Prodigy, yeah, they're really, I love The Prodigy. And then, after my short list, I've just got a list of Blur, Alice in Chains, Bonnie Prince Billy, Daft Punk, Deftones, Eels, Green Day, Sigur Rós, Smashing Pumpkins, Super Furry Animals, System of a Down, Wilco, No Doubt, and Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of them,
Good, I'm glad.
but I didn't put them in.
So, that's
I
our...
completely forgot about Daft Punk. What?
Yeah, I know, yeah,
mind.
they're cool. So,
So,
what...
homework time.
Yeah, what are you going to tell me to listen to?
Oh my goodness. Oh, the possibility are
I don't think I've
endless.
listened to any of your bands, so...
No? Oh. Okay. Well, I feel that you will definitely enjoy TLC.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I think you'll like the album Crazy Sexy Cool.
Crazy Sexy Cool by TLC.
Yeah. That's a good album.
I'm on it.
But I would like you to listen to 883 just to give me an opinion of 90s Italian music.
Okay, I will listen to them as well. Okay, so for your homework, I think I'm going to say you need to listen to some Tool.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be interested to know what you make of it.
Yeah.
I guess I should tell you an album from the 90s, right? So their
please.
second album, 1996, is Anima. And it's spelt very weirdly because the first letter is like an A and an E combined together, and then Nima. Anima. Like you're dipping a pen in some ink there.
No, it's just if I want to make my iPod.
I see. It's an electronic pen because you're from the future. Nice. But similar to 883, I think you should listen to Pearl Jam's first album just to see what you make of it, which is called 10. But Tool is your main homework, and if you get to it, check out 10 by Pearl Jam, similar to how I'll do with 883.
Okay.
Good stuff. Do you have a specific recommendation that you'd give from Culture Catch Up?
Okay, I've got 2 recommendations.
Okay, so do I, so this is fine.
I feel like if you haven't listened to The Score by the Fugees, I think is a very good album to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely Infinity Song, Mad Love. I think those are definitely things to listen to if there is time.
Nice.
And they're good albums.
Cool. My recommendations are...
How are you?
So for me, I'm going to say people should check out Hitman 3 if they can.
Okay.
It's one of the best games I've ever made. And everybody should watch The Queen's Gambit. It is one of the best TV shows I've ever seen. It is absolute perfection. So,
perfect.
Yeah.
Nice. I like it.
So, thanks for joining us for Top 5 90s Bands. I hope you've enjoyed this trip through nostalgia, especially Alex's nostalgia, which was intense.
Sorry.
It's fine. And join us next week when we're going to be going a little bit dark, a little bit creepy, a little bit gruesome. We're going to be doing our top 5 film villains. Mm-hmm. Anyone who's made you feel a bit, you're not nice, but I like you. We'll be looking over those people next time, or monsters, or whatever. Maybe they're not people. Maybe they're creatures. Top 5 villains on film.
Villains.
Yeah. So please check us out on social media. Please send us in your top 5 lists. We'd love to read out some top 5 lists from listeners each episode. So go and send them to us. Our email address, along with all the other social media channels we have, can be found in the show notes for this episode, along with links to everything we've discussed in Culture Catch Up. Please go and check that out and join us and join the conversation, all of that. And yeah, thank you so much. Love you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.